Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. We hope that you enjoy today's sermon by our pastoral staff at Christpoint Church. We also want you to know that if you have any questions, prayer requests, or need information on any of our ministry opportunities, you can email us at www.info@christpoint.church. We love you and we are praying that this will be the best year yet. Welcome home.
The coat represented his place of authority. Maybe this is a little too much affirmation. Maybe it's a little bit too much responsibility for a 17-year-old kid. So maybe it's a little bit too much. So verse 4, because of his favor, because of his position, because of his attitude, his lifestyle, and his age, he was hated. Because of everything that wrapped together. Because I'm going to tell you something. People do not like it when you walk with the Lord. I don't understand it. There will be the most evil people in the world that will say, there's a change in you. Well, I gave my heart to the Lord. You know, that's great. I'm proud of you. But the Christian somebody will hate you. I don't know. I don't understand. But when you walk with the Lord, you automatically put a devil's crosshair on you. So, I mean, I'm not telling you, that it's all doom and gloom. No, it's just you're in the battle zone now. So when you step into that favor of the Lord, people don't like it, and these guys didn't like it. So verses 5, 6, and 7, I want to call this, Joseph was innocently arrogant. So you say, how in the world can you be innocently arrogant? I'm going to show you why. Hey, guys, brothers, come here. Come here, Dad and Mom, come here. All y'all going to bow down to me. I had a dream. All y'all going to bow down to me. Is this not the coolest thing? You too, Mom and Dad. This is the coolest thing in the world. So this is what I call innocently arrogant. In other words, maybe he should have kept that to himself. Maybe he should have said, hey, wait a minute. Dad, I'm going to tell you, I had a dream, and I'm just going to, please help me to decipher this dream or understand this dream. Please, I don't want to cause trouble, but this is what I dreamed. So we see that this just, his speaking before he thinks just gets him in trouble. So verse 10, he confided in his father. Now, I think that's great. He confided in his father. He tells his father. Who else should he tell? He should tell his father. If something great happens to us, Bonnie's going this evening, oh my gosh, her son is preaching a sermon this evening at a church, and she's going to hear her son. You know what? She deserved to hear that news. She deserved to have him confide in her. Mom, I'm going to do this. And she's going, if I was in town, I'd go. So anyway, he confides in his father. And this is what he does. Out of respect, he confides in his father. Because, see, in all reality, his father knows this. He treats his father better than the brothers treats his father. And his father knows it, or he wouldn't have given him this nice coat of authority. So he sought counsel with his father. In verse 10, here's what the father did. You notice there's two things that he does. He rebukes him publicly. In other words, he tells him in front of the sons, what are me and your mom and your brothers to bow down before you? Because think about their culture of the day. You didn't bow down to anything except the Lord. So in the culture of the day, you are taking a position over us as a Lord. Son, I don't understand this. And if you'll notice, in the presence of the brothers, he takes a rebuking role. But immediately in the presence, in his own heart and his own mind, he ponders it. He's like, in other words, the father gave it some thought. In other words, probably because Jacob has never done anything like this. Jacob is the most level-headed son I have. He's the most respected son I have. He's the most trustworthy. He's proven himself. He's level-headed. All these things. And he has never been given to whims like this before. So you know what? Sometimes it just fits. And I'm going to keep that to myself, he says. So he just keeps that to himself. Even at a young age, I can almost buy into this. So in other words, I'm going to ponder on this one. So verse 14, he was sent to check on his brothers. Here again, Dad's not making things better for him. Go check on your brothers. Go check on the flocks. Go check on their dealings. Because you know what? If you don't go check on them, I don't trust my sons. So go check on them. But to the brothers, it looked like a coat of arrogance. Here comes Joseph with his big coat on, and his, it's just different. It looked different. It stood out. It was totally different. He come in as an authoritative figure. So the coat identified him as the boss. Joseph's many colors of coats. This is the first one of his many colors of coats. We all start off with this coat. We're all going to start. We all have to battle this coat of arrogance on a regular basis. See, this is the we think we can do it our way mentality. See, this is watering down the soup. Someone once told Tina and I, said, concerning our Christian walk with the Lord in today's society, said, well, if we keep watering down the soup, at some point we don't have soup and we have all water. So, if we think, this is the we think we can do it our way. So, in other words, if you think that you can just shake this coat and it's one of the past, you never go back and get it, it's one that you pick up real fast. So this is that coat of arrogance that we think we can do it ourselves. So let's look at verses 19 and 20, 21, 22. The brothers threatened to kill him. The brothers threatened. They planned and executed a plan. I can promise you, they had already picked out one of the flock to slaughter to put the blood on his coat. They'd already picked out the knives or the stone flints or whatever to hack his coat up. They had already planned to kill him when they saw him coming. So here comes that dreamer. So notice what you do. You can attack somebody if you don't call them by their name. Now think about this. If that's your enemy, you don't call them. Well, here comes John. Man, I wish John. No, here comes that guy that cheated me. So automatically they removed their personal and their blood ties with him by saying, here comes that dreamer. So here comes that dreamer. So now they have removed the responsibility of being connected to him. So here comes that dreamer, and we're going to kill him. So I want you to notice something with me. The older brother is Reuben. Reuben's the one that comes to the rescue. Now, Reuben has the most to lose by anybody rising up, because in that culture of the day, the firstborn was heir to everything and everybody else got shares of nothing. The firstborn got everything, and Reuben was the firstborn. He had the most to lose than anybody by saving Joseph's life, but don't get on the Reuben bandwagon so fast. So let me just tell you, Reuben ain't all that. So we'll go on just a little bit. Reuben says, let's not do that. But Reuben was one of the ones that called him that dreamer. But Reuben says, we don't kill him. And here's why Reuben says we don't kill him. Because if we kill him, then the blood's on our hands. But if we throw him in a pit to die over the next 4 and 5 weeks of starvation and loneliness and torment, well, then we didn't have anything to do with that, so the blood's off our hands. So Reuben was even taking it to another level. Reuben was saying, in other words, sometimes we feel like we haven't attacked anyone as long as we haven't talked about them today. So in other words, Reuben is saying, let's remove ourselves from it. I'm going to wash my hands of this like Pilate did, and I'm going to just say, look, I have nothing to do with this. Guys, listen, seriously, you're going to have to live with this. Dump him in there and we'll just let the snakes kill him. So we'll just dump him in there, and then they go to have something to eat. This is the one that gets me. I know they can hear him crying out from the pit, and then they're just having something to eat. So verse 23 is very, very important. They stripped him of his coat. You notice the first thing they did was strip him of his thing that represented his arrogance. They stripped him of his covering of arrogance. So God was going to use Jacob to save all of Israel. And he is planning to save all of Israel, because what is about to happen in a few years is a famine is about to come over the entire land, and everybody is going to die. And if God doesn't put Joseph in Egypt, then Joseph and Egypt and God through them can't save the nation of Israel. So God is saving the nation of Israel, and people don't even know it. God was going to use Jacob to save all of Israel. But here's what he won't do. God will not marry his divine purpose to anybody else's personal arrogance. God's not going to marry he wasn't going to marry Joseph, his divine purpose, to Joseph's arrogance. It's not going to happen. So let's just bring that right home for you and me. God's plan for you and me is this. God is not going to marry his divine purpose with mine and your personal arrogance. You notice nothing has changed in 3,000 years. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. God's not going to do that. See, our arrogance, remember, it's a lifestyle of control. Me. You know that commercial where the girl's going to buy the house and she's talking to the depressed me and the negative me and the encouraging me and they're all going, me. I'm going to do what I want to do. So it's the arrogance is the lifestyle of me, the lifestyle of control. It must be given up or it will be stripped away. See, here's the thing. Arrogance has to be given up or it will be stripped away. So if we give it up, it's an act of obedience and it doesn't hurt. But if it's stripped away, having something stripped away from us causes pain. So we can either give it up to God, our arrogance, or we can have it stripped away later on. And this is the part that's embarrassing. It hurts. It makes spectacles. People see it. So verse 24. Notice that the pit was dry. Now, let me just explain something to you about the arid climate in the region of the day in the Middle East. Every trade route, every path, every place from town to town was laid out according to places that had water. Because in that region, if you didn't travel from water to water or well to well, you would die and be buried. So, everything had to go from well to well. So, in an arid climate like that, if a well didn't have water, it was of no use. It was something that was dug and nothing produced from it. So dry wells were used as temporary prisons. And that's what they did. They threw Joseph in a temporary prison. A place that was dug for a necessity, but ended up having nothing there. Here's the thing. The thing that's supposed to feed us will imprison us if we don't feed it. The thing that's supposed to feed us will imprison us if we don't feed it. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If we don't feed our humility, then our arrogance will imprison us. So in other words, I have to feed my humility or my arrogance will put me in a place to where I'm going to have something stripped away. So what's supposed to feed us will imprison us if we don't feed it. So notice, Joseph was thrown into that dry place. He was thrown into that prison in a hole in the ground. So notice with me, verse 12, that Joseph went to look for his brothers. Now I really want this to stand out to you. He went to look for his brothers at a place called Shechem. Remember, he left the valley of Hebron, which means joined, and he went to a place called Shechem. In Hebrew means shoulder. So he went from a place of joining with the Father to a place that was considered shoulder, and he didn't find him there. And notice in Shechem, he was wandering, he was lost. And then he finds his brothers in Dothan. Dothan means well. So I want you to notice something with me. In Shechem, the shoulder represents what we can do. The shoulder represents, it connects the workforce, it connects the mind to the workforce of the hands. So the shoulder represents what we can do and what we can set our hands to. It represents what I can do. It represents me and my control. Dothan represents the deep places of God. It represents the deep longing and the heart of God. So look how God moved Joseph from a place of what he could do to a place of what God could do. See, because we always think that we can do in this place, but this is the place that God wants us. And it may not be exactly where we want to be. See, what God can do is directly proportionate to the amount of arrogance we allow Him to remove from us. What God can do in us is directly proportionate to the amount of arrogance that we allow Him to remove from us. So, remember this, arrogance is the lifestyle, it's also an attitude, but it's the lifestyle and attitude of me. Me. Joseph had to go through Dothan to get to Egypt. See, victory doesn't come by circumventing the well. I mean, it's like, it doesn't help us to jump from the first rung of the ladder to the top because we don't know how to do anything when we get to the top. So it doesn't do us any good. Victory doesn't come by circumventing the well. One of the greatest figures in biblical history in the Bible, being Joseph, had to be moved from Shechem to a place of Dothan. Because the only way to the king's palace is through the pit. The only way to the king's palace is through the pit. Verse 15, I want you to notice something with me. A man found him wandering. Now, I've said this over and over and over, and I really want you to think about this when you read the Bible, because once it registered with me, it really, really helped me. God doesn't put things in the Bible just so He can fill it up, make it bigger, and make it larger word count. There's a reason why this guy's placed in here. Why didn't it say he couldn't find them and went on to Dothan? It deliberately tells us that a man spoke to him. In verse 15, a man found him. How did he find him? He found him lost. He found him wandering. He found him lost and he found him wandering in a place called Shechem, which is the place of the shoulder, which connects the mind to what the hands can do. So here's what I want you to notice with me is Joseph was lost in Shechem. When we put our hands to what we can do, we're going to feel like we know what we're doing. We've even got a coat that proves it. But we're lost in our own efforts. We're lost in our own control. We will never have control as long as we're lost in Shechem. So this man says, hey, I know where they are. This is a type and shadow of Jesus today. This is type and shadow of Jesus today. I read pretty much more about this than I did anything else. Some believe it was a guy that worked for him. Most applications, most scholars say we believe this is basically a representation of Jesus. This was God telling him where to go. So we know this is a type and shadow of Jesus today, because when we have the wrong coat on, the coat of arrogance, we'll wander lost in a place that we have created. And Shechem was owned by Jacob, so it was a place of his fathers that they had created, and he couldn't even find his way around it. He couldn't even find his brothers. Jesus, I'm telling you, is your man in the field. He is your man in the field. He is pointing you to deeper places. All we have to do is just realize that we have to ask Him how to get to the fields. How to get to Dothan. He's our man in the field. He's leading you away from who you were, leading us away from being lost. Joseph represents two kinds of people. The unsaved. Number one, it's the unsaved people. See, the unsaved people who are clothed in their own efforts and self-control. And you say, well, I'm not arrogant. When we want to do it our way, that's arrogance against God. Trust me, I fight with it every day. I know what it looks like. So, see, two types of people. The unsaved person that hasn't been saved yet, that does battle and clothed in efforts, their own efforts and their own self-control. Here's the second person, is the person that is saved, which is also still clothed in our own efforts and our own self-control. See, we have to fight the same battles as a Christian as we do as the non-Christian. We have to give up something in order to walk. We have to give up something to come to Jesus. We have to give up something to walk deeper. So, here's the skinny. The greater the arrogance, the deeper the pit. I don't want that to hurt your feelings. It's a good description of me. The greater the arrogance, the deeper the pit. See, remember, the lifestyle of arrogance is depend on me. So, the lifestyle of humility is depend on God. God had to start the process of Joseph before He could start the process in Israel. You say, this is kind of harsh. Why would He do this just to save Israel? Israel was the nation. Well, they weren't a nation yet. At this time, they're just a family. But in order to save Israel, He had to start the process in Joseph first. Not one of the other brothers. Joseph was the one that was chosen. By elevating his dreams to his brothers and his parents, this is what Joseph was doing. Joseph was destroying his net worth with his family. Sometimes we have to realize we have to destroy our net worth with what holds us to the world in order to free ourselves to Jesus. So Joseph was destroying his net worth with his family. If we're going to walk with God in the fashion that He has designed for us to, we're going to have to relinquish our Shechem and embrace God's Dothan. That's just all there is to it. So, let me address the elephant in the room. The $64,000 question. So here's the elephant in the room. Well then, why does God seem to always turn up the heat on the people that He's calling? I mean, Joseph changed the course of all of Israel. He changed the course for all of Israel just by being who he was. He was thrown into prison. We're going to look at all of this. We're going to look at all of this over the next few weeks. So here's the $64,000 question. If God was going to use him, why does he have to go through so much crap? I'm sorry if you don't like that word. Let me just say, if you're offended by that. If God was going to use him in such a powerful way, why did he have to go through the duty? I mean, why does it have to be smelly on him? Why does it always have to be hard to serve the Lord? And the greater the call, the deeper the pit, the more the arrogance, the deeper the pit. I'm going to tell you one of my interpretations of this. It's because like gold, the hotter the fire, the purer the gold becomes. See, like gold, God doesn't want to marry us. See, no woman, no loving bride wants to have a ring on her finger that turns her finger green. Because it's made of something else that wasn't refined hot enough. So in other words, God's burning out the junk. And he's the junk of the world, the junk of selfishness, the junk of arrogance, the junk of the coat that we're wearing. God has to burn this stuff out of us. He has to melt this away. All of a sudden, I can promise you this, when Joseph's in that pit, he's not thinking about that coat. I'm not thinking about my place in this family. I'm thinking about my place in life. I'm thinking about whether I'm going to live or die. So, why does God seem to always turn up the heat on the greatest of servants? Because the greatest of servants have to go through the hottest of times to get the dross burn off of them. Because remember, He's not going to marry His divine purpose to our personal arrogance. So we all start off with the color of arrogance as a garment. We think we can do it our way. See, here's the thing. We not only think we can do it our way, we think we can do it our way and then get God involved once in a while. And then by doing that, we call it a relationship. I'm just going to challenge you to do that in your boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Do that in your husband-wife relationship. Do that. Just get that other person involved when you want it, Because I'm one of those people that I could say, hey, yeah, I just want to, I just want people to see you. I don't want them to hear you. I can't be one of those, but I mean, it would look good. Here's my wife. She's pretty. Look at her. Hey, she stands out. No matter what y'all think, she chased after me. But the thing is that's not respecting her. That's not a relationship with her. That doesn't honor her in any form or fashion. So God's not wanting to get involved in my relationship with Him once in a while when it makes me look good. Or when I want to say good things. That's not a relationship. If we're going to fully walk with God and embrace Him as Father and trust Him and call Him Savior, then we're going to have to relinquish what we set our hands to in order to embrace the deep wells of God. So if we're going to fully... Now, can I continue to walk with the Lord and make it to heaven? Well, all these brothers were still sons of Jacob. It didn't make them not sons. They just didn't get to walk in the victory that Joseph walked in. And I'm going to tell you, none of us, I don't care who you are, none of you write yourself into the picture of one of the brothers. Every one of you write yourself into the story of Joseph. But we want to circumvent the pit in order to get there. See, we're going to have to relinquish what we set our hands to in order to embrace the deep wells of God. If we remain in Shechem, we will only ever see the fruits of our own labor. That's all we'll ever see. And I mean, you say, well, that's all I want to see. No, I promise you. If we only keep and remain in Shechem, we will only ever see the fruits of our own labor, not the victory that God wants through us. Man, I'm telling you, why would we not want to see the victory and experience the walk of victory that God has through us? I just continue to work at my little world. God isn't interested in your worth, I'm telling you. He's not interested in your worth. He's interested and concerned about your net worth. Because your net worth is all the stuff that's floated to the top and skimmed off and thrown away. He's concerned about your net worth. That's what our real worth is. After the impurities, after the stripping away. Hello again, and thank you for tuning in. I pray that today's sermon has spoken to your heart and has ministered to you well. We just want you to know that we have two locations, one at our Sparta campus, our main campus at Sparta on the square in Sparta, and our second campus is at Smithfield behind Ace Hardware. And we would love for you to call Christpoint Church your church home. And if you're viewing this and you can't get in to church and you feel like you want to be a part of the church, then you can always be a part of the church. Just drop us a note and let us know that you enjoy being on board with us. And if you'd like to give and be a part of the ministry, then you can do that by just sending a check to one of the locations at 614 Murphy Street, Smithfield, 13 Liberty Square in Sparta, and we'll get you on the road. We just love you so much, and you can download the Christpoint Church of Tennessee app, and you can give online. So we are real people. We're living real lives, and we're serving a real God. And we just want to tell everyone, welcome home. We're so glad that you tuned in with us. Welcome home.